for Joe to have it.
I think it's only ground mount though, isn't it? Or is it flying?
It's
The
flying.
Raven?
It's a bird.
Yeah.
Fucking thing better fly.
The tree?
The bird. This blue bird.
No, it's a ground only.
Okay, have I gotten everyone? Clump, clump, clump from the tree.
Stupid ox thing with the tiny wings.
I cannot see.
Oh yeah, the Chinese New Year thing. Okay, are you still getting stream up?
It's up. We're good.
Okie dokie, artichokes. Okie doke. So there is a patrol that wanders this hallway that we have to be mindful of when we're pulling. The trash in here sucks, so, you know, get excited for that. So this first pack pulls all 6. You can't pull like one side and then the other. And I believe the mobs randomize a little bit each time. The Astromancers are going to be our kill priority. So they have like a molten armor that can be purged or spell stolen off. They do a blast wave, so you don't want to be near them unless you're melee or a tank, taking that damage. And then they do an instant cast firebolt volley on the whole raid, which is why we get rid of them first. So this pack actually has 2, which is ass. Then we would kill the Starscryer. The Starscryer does a mind control. So CC the mind controlled player. Please don't kill them. Arcane Blast. It does a knockback on the tanks. So when you guys pick these up, you're going to tank them in a corner here. I will put star on my head. So you're going to tank them in a corner. And they also do a Starfall instant cast AoE. It kind of looks like Star Shards from a Night Elf, if you've ever seen those. Not like the more traditional Starfall effect. The Vindicators, we are going to CC with Polys. So they do a Hodge stun and then also a heal. And the Bloodwarder Legionnaires cleave and they whirlwind, and the whirlwind is quite nasty melee. So especially if there is more than one Legionnaire, we'll want to separate them. Yeah, this trash, as well as most of these bosses, kind of ask for melee. Welcome to TBC.
Yay.
So we will be using some sheeps in CC, and then we will be single targeting down the mobs in a stack. Again, if we have a pack like this, we'll CC 1 Legionnaire and 1 Vindicator, sheep them, and then we'll tank the other 4 and kill them. But that's pretty much these hallway packs here. So for the sake of these, unless you want to see any mechanics, we can just kill them. Hell yeah, I've got a Girl of Fallen Star. So we'll kill that first pack, and then we'll wait for the patrol, depending on where it is. So with the patrol, the Marshal there in the center, he does a really fucking nasty whirlwind. Like melee, you're just really not going to want to get hit by that at all. And you really aren't going to want to DPS him. You're just going to hang out. He does a Bloodthirst where he heals and does physical damage to the tank. And then he also does a knockback. So same thing where you'll want to tank him with your back to a wall in just like a little corner here. The Squires will CC and or kill first. They do a cleanse and a heal. So we'll want to get them out of the way. Interrupt their little heals. This is another pack, kind of like the first 2. So this trash is pretty straightforward, but it is also pretty awful. Then we get to the pre-alar trash. So we're going to start by pulling back into here, like into the corner here. So the falconers, so there's pack on the left, pack on the right. The falconers, which are the humanoids, they do a knockback. They like to ranged attack, and they put a fire dot on their target. They also have like a fire shield effect on them. That's what that like swirly fire is around them. So they do like a really light, like 250 tick of fire damage every couple seconds. The hawks themselves really suck. So when we pull into the corner here, they do a silence, and there are a lot of them. So healers and casters, we want to be not on them. So we want to be at range because they do like an AoE 6-second silence. They do a wing buffet, which is an AoE knockback. So melee, you are going to get knocked back as you're DPSing them and then have to run back in. Mind your health because you're also going to be taking that fire shield dot and stuff. They are CCable though, so if we wanted to try and trap one or two coming in, we could, but we should be able to just tank them and AoE them down. So there's 2 packs of these. It's just super important, obviously, that we don't pull both packs at once because that will be terrible. So after we kill both of those packs, we're going to start pulling the Phoenix Hawks. Just want to be careful, as you can see they're padding back and forth, that we're not pulling more than one at a time. So we're going to pull them down. They do a dive on the farthest player. So basically, like, we would pull it to like we would pull one to like right over here where a skull is, and then the raid would stack, and an off tank would be out at max range to bait the charge. So it will always charge the furthest player away, and it does do an AoE knockback. So when it knocks back, we just need to run back in. That being said, it also does an AoE mana steal that deals a little bit of damage. So there will be raid damage going out. We pull them one at a time. We might eventually pull them 2 at a time, but definitely never more than 2, because that mana burn will get nasty really fast. So there's 2 on this side, or 3 on this side, and then 1 or 2 on the other side. So we'll go to the other side. We'll kill the ones over there because we're going to need the whole platform area for the boss fight. We'll let you all kill that. Any questions, comments, concerns on the trash? Fantastic. Put some markers down here real quick. So we are getting the pre-nerf version of Alar. Apparently I can't mark everything from that location. We're getting the pre-nerf version of Alar, which means that his platform cycles in phase 1 are randomized, and there are 6 of them instead of being in a set rotation, and there being only 4. So where I'm placing the markers is where those 6 locations are. So I'll be honest, I'm still kind of going back and forth if we're gonna do 4 tanks in here for the initial progression, and then whittle it down to 3 after a couple weeks, or if we'll do 3 right away. I think 4 might help smooth out some of the progression stuff, so we may be going with that. Oh, those markers are really far back.
Yeah, I saw them talking to Paladin Discord. They're like, well, that almost never happens, him going all the way to the other side. I'm like, well, that's a good way to do your progression.
Yeah, let's just plan to not get unlucky. That's his best strat. Okay. So the markers are up there. So the raid dock is set up with the 4 tanks for right now. We will have 2 tanks cover, 1 tank cover 2 spots upstairs, and then we are going to have 1 tank downstairs, which would be our 4th tank. Which, in the case of Ducky, I think have apathy on the dock there. So Alar's a 2-phase fight. In phase 1, to start off the fight, Commit will head over to the skull marker platform. The tanks are going to be the only ones going up on the platforms. So healers, ranged, melee DPS, we're all down on the bottom. The 3 tanks are the only ones who go up here. So Commit is gonna just kind of hang out here, and then throw or shoot something at Alar when he comes by, or she comes by. So at that point, Alar is going to randomly fly to one of the 6 platforms. So between the 3 tanks up top, they need to get to the platform that Alar is on ASAP. For any time that Alar does not have someone in melee range, he's going to do, or she's going to do, Quills, which is a AoE raid-wide damage. Sorry, not Quills. Flame Buffet. Or Flame Buffet. So she does Flame Buffet, which is raid-wide damage. If we take even 4 ticks in a row, it's probably going to wipe us. So it's super important that the tanks are watching where she's landing and getting to that platform as quickly as possible. Each time she will spend a little bit of time at that platform. Tanks, you want to just make sure you're where Commit is. You're on the edge so that you can be seen for heals. Don't be way back on the platform. So we'll be healing. There is no threat on for melee or for range. Sorry, on this fight, there's no threat on Alar in phase 1, so you can go fucking ham. As long as Commit is the only one up there, she'll be aggroed on Commit, and you guys can just pump. She is going to be on that platform for a little bit, and then she'll take off into the air and either choose another platform, in which case the tanks need to make sure that they adjust and get to that platform to grab her very quickly. So we may be also down here running across the room to the other side to be able to heal and DPS. But she may also decide just to fly up into the middle of the room. When she flies up into the middle of the room, that's when she does Flame Quills. That is a AoE really, really high damage attack that hits only the platforms and the ramps. So all the tanks need to drop down immediately from the platform. Don't worry about jumping. Don't worry about running down the ramp. Literally just walk off the edge and fall ASAP. Or you will die, and we will be sad. As soon as that ability ends, be ready to start running back up the ramp, because she's going to find a platform and land on it. If you start running up too early, you will take the damage. If you try to hang out on the ramp, you will take the damage. You need to be on the ground level. When Alar moves and does that, she will start spawning little Phoenix ads that will kind of come down the ramp. So the off tank is going to be picking up, or the assigned downstairs tank is going to be picking up the ads and tanking them here. We're not going to be killing these ads in phase 1. We're going to be kind of letting them stack up. Melee DPS, what you guys are going to be doing in phase 1 is DPSing those ads down to about 40% health at first, and then we'll see as we go if we want to whittle them down a little bit more. But about 40% health and stop. Casters, ranged, there is no reason for you to touch those ads. Just let the melee handle them unless it's called for. The reason that we're not killing those ads in phase 1 is that in phase 2, which is a much more hectic, much more high damage phase, for each of those ads that die, they take 3% health from Alar. So it really helps us push through phase 2 faster if we can kill the Phoenix ads there and not in phase 1, which is like a fairly easy phase in comparison. Phase 1 lasts the entire health bar of Alar, so it's just going from platform to platform, going up in the air, and this having to drop down. And the spawning of the ads, the melee, your job again is just going to be staying downstairs and DPSing down the new ads as they come, and making sure that we're not killing them. We're going to leave a good amount of health on them because it's going to be a paladin tank. Making sure that we're not killing them, holding them, and they're going to be continuing to do some damage. So we don't want to take them too low. If those ads do happen to die, and when they die in phase 2, they do a huge amount of damage. So the only person who should be near them when they die is the tank that's tanking them, and they should only be dying one at a time. If 2 die at a time, good chance it's going at the same time. It's good chance it's going to kill that tank, and that will be bad. So once Alar hits phase 2, so Alar hits 0% health and dies, everybody jumps down to the bottom. We need to make sure we're not standing on this kind of glass area. So everybody wants to be outside of this inner circle. So we'll be kind of spread out all around here because she is going to rebirth right in the center of this circle. Deal a large amount of damage and do a knockback. She'll also do this when she dies in phase 1. So whatever tank is near her is going to take a big poof of damage and get like knocked back as well. But she does it when she rebirths. So start of phase 2, big fire damage to anyone who's within this circle. So nobody should be, and a big knockback to them as well. It's super important that she gets picked up right away when after she rebirths, though. So just tanks need to be ready to come back in, to come in and get her, because she's going to do a flame buffet for every second that she is not tanked. So during this phase, she does some different abilities. She's no longer going to do the flame quills because nobody's going to be upstairs. She is going to do Flame Patch, which looks just like on Shade of Iran, the little circles from what's that shit called?
Flame Wreath.
From Flame Wreath. Yeah, it looks just like Flame Wreath circles. You just want to stay away from them. They not only obviously deal fire damage to you, but they put a debuff on you that increases the fire damage that you take. So if you stand on them for even a couple seconds, you'll probably die with the increased damage and everything. So just stay away from the flame patches. She's going to also randomly charge a player. So as she's being tanked, she's just going to like look at somebody and then zoom over to him. She is tauntable, so taunting her when she does a charge is good, so she doesn't also melee that person. She's also going to, on her current tank, she'll put a melt armor debuff. That's a tank swap mechanic. So once a tank gets melt armor, the other tanks are going to need to taunt off of them immediately. So having 3 tanks kind of helps with the taunts on the charge and the melt armor taunts. Hunters, you have some assignments in the raid doc for MDs for the ads. Every time she does a dive bomb, she's actually going to spawn 2 ads at a time in this phase. We need MD help bringing them over to the Phoenix tank, as they may not be able to run around and pick up the ads themselves. Off tanks can also help to pick them up and bring them over. Aside from that, when she does the dive bomb, I'm sorry, I mentioned that briefly. So we're going to be kind of loosely stacked around. We'll have one player kind of a little more centrally located. For Ducky, this will probably be you, Thunder. It'll be the stack target, so you don't have to worry about moving, and we'll stack on you, so you can pump them heals. But when the dive bomb happens, it's like a meteor. The raid needs to run and gather up on that person. That includes the ad tank, that includes anybody, because it will choose a random target for the dive bomb. If you're alone or there's just a couple people, you will die from the damage. If we're all stacked, it splits and the damage is not bad. And then we just can spread back out again off of that stack point. We are during that time going to be starting to kill the ads. So most of the raid is going to be DPSing Alar, but hunters, you guys are going to be responsible for killing the little Phoenix ads that we've knocked down to low health. So it is going to be imperative that you're only killing one at a time, and that we're making sure that the tank is topped up and ready for that ad to die. So we're not killing, in the case of Ducky Raid, we're not killing Apathy as he's tanking those bad boys.
Oh,
What's that?
I like killing Apathy.
No. But again, so we'll be so by killing those ads, you are effectively doing damage to the boss, because each ad that dies steals 3% health. So if we have a good 4 or 5 ads from phase 1, that's a good 15% health that we can take off of her pretty easily. But that's going to be pretty much the whole phase, is staying out of fire, collapsing when the dive bomb's about to happen. You'll be able to tell it's happening because she's going to fly up into the middle of the air. And then after dive bomb goes off, we spread back out and we continue to DPS. Tanks do the tank swap. It's pretty manageable from there. Does anybody have any questions?
Loosely spread for the fire, right?
Yeah, it's just so the fire is not dropping on a group of people all stacked together.
Did you say there was a flame buffet damage right after the rebirth if there's not a tank?
Yes, so she'll dive down, or she'll do the rebirth, and then she might get one pulse of flame buffet off, but you want to be ready to run in and pick her up as soon as somebody's in melee.
The same thing will happen after each dive bomb?
After each dive bomb, she's going to do a flame buffet. She'll do one, as long as regardless of us being in range. So we're going to take the group damage from the dive bomb and then a flame buffet. And then when she does a charge as well, so she'll charge a player and then she will do a flame buffet at that point as well. So in phase 1, it should just be or phase 2 rather, it should just be single dive buffets going off during those times. Phase 1 is where we risk having multiple flame buffets going off if the tanks are not getting to the platform sections quickly enough. And that can get really, really nasty really fast.
So in phase 1, we'll have 3 tanks up top, one at position 1, 4, and 6?
So I was going back and forth with how I wanted it. Probably not 1, 4, and 6. It'd probably be 1 and then the second tank at 2 or 3. I kind of changed my mind about it because I don't know. It feels weird running between 5 and 6 because they're so far apart. Because that was originally when I made the dock. I was thinking 1 tank running between 5 and 6, but they're really far. So I think it makes more sense to do 1 and 6.
Can I cover 3 positions from Skull?
So in theory, when we get more comfortable, I think we can go down to 3 tanks. So there's just 2 tanks up top, one handling 1, 2, and 6, and then one handling 3, 4, and 5. But for progression, overall in this instance, I'm kind of leaning towards 4 tanks just to smooth it out a little bit. She is typically less prone to going to 5 and 6. But again, like, it can definitely happen.
How long do the tanks have after the quills to actually get back to those positions?
So after the quills, not a terribly long time. I think they've got like about 5-6 seconds to get running up. So they want to be near the base of the stairs. Like they basically, if I'm the tank who plops down from skull, I'm going to plop down, and then I'm going to kind of hang out near the stairs. Or near the ramp, there were some bugs on the PTR that we'll have to see really how it comes out in live. But that if you were either too close on there, that you could get it, that you could still get hit by them. So we just have to be a little mindful of that and see if that's still a factor when it actually goes live. But then you should be able to run up.
Is it a random platform after the quills, or is it always going to be back on skull?
It's always going to be random.
So Squiggles
because it's the pre-nerf
to the extra square.
Yeah, and so that's why I put the druid tank there so he could sprint. And or at least have like a cat form to get there quicker.
Does Alar do fire or physical damage? Physical, right?
So Alar does physical damage mainly, but some of the attacks are fire based. Like some of the specials and stuff deal fire damage.
I don't think you have rocket boots. I think you maybe have speed pots if you want something like that. But...
Yeah, I don't know about them rocket boots malfunctioning. Sounds terrible.
And then you're also wearing rocket boots.
Blue ones don't malfunction.
Do they not? I thought all engineering stuff had a chance for malfunction.
Not the blue ones.
Goblin stuff.
The green ones do. The blue ones always work.
Should I pull it?
Yeah, you can pull it. And did anybody else have questions? All right. So the one classic version, she flies always to this platform, and then goes out. So she died. We would all drop down. Don't want to be in the actual game in the middle. She does a knockback. And now she's dead. And now I have a pistol.
My pistol. Another man.
This trash also kind of sucks. Yeah, it does.
Are we just gonna automatically go this way?
Yes, we're gonna go to Void Reaver next. So the Devastators here, they use an ability called Countercharge, which causes them to add arcane damage to their auto attacks and to silence nearby. So you don't want to be near them if you don't have to be. They do a knockback, so you want to tank them in a corner, and they reset threat when they do the knockback. Those mobs. So watch yourself. Whatchamacallit, range DPS want to be maxed, melee DPS want to be behind the mob, and then again, just be mindful that it is going to drop threat periodically. These Crystal Core Sentinels, they do charged arcane explosions. It's a melee range AoE, so we're going to want to pull them and separate them, not tank them on top of each other. They also do a trample, which is another melee ranged AoE, because why not? Fuck melee, right? And then they do an overcharge where they target the current tank, and they deal a huge burst damage, and another tank needs to taunt it off. So we just want range at max range. There's a lot of tank and melee damage that these guys do. So it'd be so many chain heals. I don't even know.
Yay.
So a couple packs of these sentinels. So when we move in here, we're going to use some Benishas, some mind controls. It's going to be exciting. So the first thing is going to be this Pat with the Devastator and the two Smiths. So the Devastator, like I covered his abilities before, but he needs to be tanked in a corner. So we're going to be pulling them like into a corner over here. Yeah, so we wouldn't pull like that because that would be bad.
I was just testing it.
Yeah. So like on that pole, that patrol pole, the Tempest Smiths, they do some really nasty shit. They do a fragmentation bomb. It deals fire damage and applies an armor reduction debuff. They do fire damage and an AoE stun around them. They also increase the damage done by any of the crystal core like machine guys, so the Devastators or the Sentinels, if they're nearby, and they will also repair them. And that stuff's not interruptible. So if we use Priest MC, Priest, when you MC them, there is one of the abilities looks like a spiky metal ball. You just want to spam that ability over and over again. It has no cooldown, and just spam it on the Devastator or the Sentinel, whatever's in the pack. The Crystal Core mechanics can be banished so that we could deal with them last because they have some nasty mechanics as well. So we'll basically be using the Tempest Smith to help kill the Devastators with MC, banishing the mechanics, and then banishing one mechanic at a time to kill them, and then go through these packs. And of course, we'll be pulling everything back as we do it. The mechanics do a saw blade attack. It can hit random people, and it puts does damage and then puts a bleed on them, which when it's on like a shit ton of people, it's pretty gross. And then they also do a non-interruptible channeled heal on any of the Devastators or Sentinels. So we don't want them up while the Devastators or Sentinels are up. Hasta no bueno. So Void Reaver is super easy, and we are just gonna do the stack strat. So gonna tank Void Reaver in the middle. Hunters, you guys get to dive arcane orbs out at range, so you want to just stay at range and away from each other. Yeah, Loot Reaver. It's pretty stupid easy. If you get hit by an arcane orb, so they shoot out of the boss and then they slowly go to a location. So you can see on your camera that they're coming, and you should have plenty of time to just move out of where they're going to hit, because they're going to land where you were when it was cast, if it was cast at you. If it does hit you, it deals arcane damage and silences you for 6 seconds. So worst case scenario, you're auto-shotting. And we need to get a heal on you. Yeah, hunters are just going to be responsible for running around outside. Everybody else is going to stack up on the boss. We're just going to DPS him and heal and heal and heal and heal. So he does a pound periodically. It's a channeled arcane damage that hits melee range. It's on a pretty short cooldown, so he'll do it fairly often. He does a knockaway where he punts the top threat target backwards and reduces their aggro. So it's super important that the tanks remain the top threat targets. And then you guys build back up your threat. So definitely, like, as a warrior, you want to have an offhand with you, so when you're not tanking, you can dual wield to build threat back up. and so forth. Whatchamacallit, it's a pretty simple fight as long as we make sure that the tanks are up there in threat. So at that point, we are going to go this way and clear this trash and pass kind of through Kichi's room.
For progression or for when we're on farm?
Whatchamacallit. I mean, we had to kill the Pat one way or the other in the hole in the door. So the only thing we're skipping really is like this one. So we are going to I mean, these are just basically additional shitty packs. So the Blood Knights do a flash of light heal. We have caught the patrol. So the Blood Knights, okay. So the Inquisitor, the big dude that was in the middle of that pat, he just basically spam mind flays the tank that's tanking him. The Centurions, though, are pretty deadly. They do an arcane flurry that needs to be interrupted. They can be sheeped, they can be stunned, I believe. It just needs to be interrupted. That arcane flurry can't go off the full duration because it does a shit ton of damage, AoE damage. The battle mages do a frost attack. They do they cast blizzards. They cone cold. They frostbolt volley, and their actual physical attacks, because they melee as well, deal frost damage and slow. And the Blood Knights do a flash of light that is interruptible. They need to be interrupted. We'll be killing them first. They do a Hodge. Hodges just need to be dispelled, and they put a renew up on one of their friendly targets. With these packs, we should be able to stack them up and AoE them down. We would just need to make sure that the mages are each targeting one of the two Centurions while they're casting their AoE, and then when they start to do their arcane flurry, that we get a sheep on them to stop that going off. But outside of that, we should be able to just kind of AoE them down, honestly.
Looks like it worked.
Yep.
What the heck was that?
Easy peasy lemon squeezy. And then another one of these wonderful packs. We're going to swoop in here and kill this little pack. These are all mobs that we've seen in the other packs. So we'll go back through them at the time, but that's pretty simple and straightforward. And then we are going to be going through this hallway. All same shit.
Isn't this all going to be locked until we kill all the bosses?
Was his room locked back in the day? I don't actually remember that.
Pretty sure it was.
Yeah, it was. You had to kill all three before you got to K2.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this beam
These
wall
little,
right here.
these little barriers here. Yeah, then we'll go the other way. The trash is pretty much the same. The Sentinels we talked about before, so same thing where they have to be tanked separately. They do just a shit ton of melee AoE damage. So the ones that he just jumped into there, the Lord just has a fire shield on him, and the Legionnaires that were with him just need to be spam sheeped, and then these little packs are just going to be AoE, group up in AoE. So when we get in here, we have to be really careful with these patrols. We're going to be pulling these back into the corridor one at a time. These two patrols, even though they look like pretty close together, they pull separately. So the mob in the middle that Commit just killed, the Scryer, he does a mass MC. So he'll MC actually multiple people. Priests need to be prepared to mass dispel on those pulls. So range, you want to be at a reasonable distance, and every priest needs to be ready to hit their mass dispel button when we pull those packs. It is also super important that everybody burns any fears that they have before those packs. Because if we get feared into the boss's room or into any of the other packs, it is going to suck. These side packs, they pull both groups at the same time. So both the triangle group and the square group come together in one pull. So that's where we would like have a hunter initiate a pull, and we would just LOS like around the edge here, stack them up and AoE them down. And we'll kind of go around the outskirts doing that with all three of these double pack pulls. But we will be pulling both of those patrol groups first. Okay. So Solarian actually has like a decent aggro range, even at like level 50. So especially if you're not level 50, just hang back for a second. So Solarian is we're going to call it a 3-phase fight. It doesn't really matter what direction we pull from, but essentially the raid will be stacked together like over on yellow, and then our soak tank. So we're going to do for progression, at least we're going to do the soak strat. I think overall it's just going to be a little easier to execute. So with the soak strat, we are going to have 2 tanks who are going to be in arcane resist gear and stam gear, basically. They're the only thing those 2 tanks have to do is stand side by side like buddies over here by themselves. That is whatchamacallit. And we'll talk through it a little bit, but my plan right now is commit. That would be what you get to do. So you get to chill on this fight and just hang out over here with another tank and talk to each other. It'll be real relaxing. I want to put a pally tank in just because for the mass adds that spawn in the 2nd phase. I want a pally to be able to pick them up. And then because phase 1, there is no threat table. There's no tanking that actually needs to be done. I want to have the druid tank out because they can just be DPSing during that time. More so than what a Prat Warrior DPSing will do. So that's my thinking on that. But yeah, these 2 tanks, they're just wearing all kinds of HP, arcane resist, and just chilling. So the rest of the raid group is stacked up. Phase 1, there is no threat table at all. She does not need to be tanked. Everyone can go all out. She's going to periodically be putting a raid-wide debuff that stacks and reduces arcane resist by 15 every time it stacks. We are going to, for progression, use the Violet Badge from Kara, which has 45 arcane resist, so it basically gives us 3 free stacks before our arcane resist is actually reduced. because this fight is a shit ton of arcane damage. We are again getting a pre-nerf version of Solarian. So the Wrath of the Astromancer mechanic, which is why we're using soak tanks. If you guys did this fight back in the day and you did it post-nerf, you'll remember a mechanic where you like blew up in the air and then fell down. That is not what happens in the pre-nerf version. So in the pre-nerf version, she is going to randomly choose a random target in the raid and cast Wrath of the Astromancer on them. You turn kind of bluish, kind of like the color I am right now with this moonkin effect on me. You turn kind of bluish, and you start taking damage, arcane damage, and when the debuff expires, it passes to the next closest player to you, regardless of how far away you go. So even if I went and ran all by myself to the opposite side of the room, whoever was the closest to me is still going to get past that ability. You can't outrange the pass. So the goal is that I run over near the tanks that are chilling over here. Excuse me. The soak bros, as I have dubbed them. I run over to the soak bros. I wait till I see my debuff fly off onto them, and then I get the fuck out of dodge. I go back into the raid group, and those guys just share that shit back and forth with each other for the rest of the fight. So that happens every single time somebody gets it. You run over. You don't have to run like right on top of them. Again, it's going to pass to whoever you're closest to. So as long as you're closer to them than you are to the raid stack, it will pass to one of them, and then you can come right back to the raid as soon as it's off of you. It's super important, like especially if you're a healer. I know there's like the impulse to be like, oh, well, I'll just get a heal off before I leave. You could easily get it passed back onto you and start fucking up the mechanic. It's important to trust your other healers and just get back to the stack as quickly as possible. During the fight, because Solarian has no aggro table, she is just basically spamming arcane missiles at random people. Those arcane missiles will deal more than 100% of a player's life. So it is super important that healers are on the ball with fast, quick heals and or bubbles, hots, anything on the players that are getting affected by that ability, or we will start losing people fast. So healing is super, super, super important that we are on it in phase 1 and using fast, quick heals to keep people from dying. After 50 seconds in phase 1, the boss is also going to every 20 seconds do an ability called Blinding Light that is raid-wide arcane damage. As the fight goes on, that will start to deal more and more damage to people, because when somebody gets Wrath of the Astromancer, they get an additional reduction in their arcane resistance, which is why the arcane tanks are just stacked with arcane resist, so that they've got a while before it starts really, really affecting them. But people in the raid are going to start taking more damage from the ability the longer the fight goes on. After 50 seconds in phase 1, she'll go into phase 2, in which she'll disappear. 2 portals will spawn. Those are the green or the yellow circles you see on the raid dock. 2 portals spawn, and a bunch of ads pile out of them. It's about 12 ads. So the other 2 tanks, Paladin and Druid, are going to pick up those ads. We're going to AoE them down. If for any reason some of those ads run over towards the Soak Bros, the Soak Bros will just tank them, and range DPS will kill them after the AoE pack goes down. We don't want anyone running over and trying to pick them up off of them and risking getting the stacks. So if they run over there, just let them pick them up and tank them, and we will kill them. So you have about 20-ish seconds to burn down those AoE ads before Solarian reappears. Somebody just messaged me? Oh, fast.
Yeah.
So it's a cat. So you have about 20 seconds until Solarian reappears. When she reappears, 2 new ads are going to come out of the portals with her. They are priests. They do what you might imagine priests do. They heal. So one is going to be marked with a skull. The raid is going to burn that one first. The rogues are going to go on the other one, along with the second tank, and keep it interrupted while we burn the first one, and then we'll burn that second one, and then we'll return to DPSing Solarian. When she reappears with those two ads, you have like about 110 seconds until she transitions into phase 2 again. And so that's how it goes. She just goes back and forth between phase 1 and phase 2 until she hits 20%. When she hits 20%, she becomes a big ass void walker. She starts doing an arcane bolt on the tank, which is high damage. That is really our burn phase. And she also does a psychic scream in melee range. So tremor totems should be down at that point. And then because our tank will be either a paladin or a bear druid at that point, we're going to do a fear ward rotation, which is outlined in there on the tank, to avoid bad tremor ticks and that kind of thing as much as possible, so that they can hold threat and we can burn down Solarian before the arcane bolt damage becomes too high. Any questions? Comments?
Who's gonna be the second bro?
So for the purposes of Ducky, I had, if we were going with the 4 tanks, which is still what I'm thinking for progression, it'll be you and Apathy, just broing it out.
And are we meant to be like 10 yards apart or whatever, so that we're not hitting each other with the Astromancer, but still passing it?
So it's not, you don't need to be like right on top of each other, but you can literally be like a couple steps apart, like one here and one here. You're really just standing there.
You don't want to be close to me, or what's going on?
No, I'm just reading the Astromancer ability that we're going to bounce back and forth, and it does damage to allies.
Is it arcane? Is that the point? Is like, do we want to avoid that, or is it just something we have to our arcane resist just deals with?
It's your arcane resist deals with it. It's not that the damage on you guys isn't going to be that bad that you need to worry about being far apart.
I mean, worst case, we can just move apart if it's becoming a problem. Yeah.
Yeah, depending on how long the fight goes, but I think we have enough DPS to do this strat effectively. But like, if you guys were like Moon and Triangle are, that's fine. It's not a big deal.
So when it comes to the arcane missile part, does like DBM announce it, or do you just have to be on top of it?
DBM isn't going to announce it because she's doing it constantly. So having the boss on a focus target, or having like a macro to assist on her target, can help. I know my raid frames show me when somebody is being cast on. Like, I see the little spell above their frame, so I know that they're being cast on for it.
Same. I just, wanted to know what I needed to pay attention for is also.
Yeah, that's like the bulk of what she's doing in phase 1 is just fucking spamming random people in the raid with arcane missiles one after the other.
I'm assuming pets can get that debuff as well. So we'll have to be aware of that.
Sorry, say that again?
The buff, the debuff, boys debuff that we'd have to take over to him. I'm assuming a pet can get that as well.
I don't believe it can pass to pets, no. But your pets shouldn't ever be over there anyway. They're going to be on the boss.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, if
oh yeah, she won't. She wouldn't cast it on a pet or anything like that. Yeah, yeah. So in the event that we have problems with this strat, the normal strat for this fight, whatchamacallit, is to have one stack where everybody stands, and let's say I get the debuff. As soon as the debuff goes off of me and onto somebody else, I run over and start a new stack. And so the next person that I pass mine to, when they get one, then they come over and stand with me for the fight from then on, and so on and so forth. So as it falls off of one person onto another, we move over, and then so that way it's passing to people who have not gotten it yet instead of to people who already have it and have already gotten like reduced arcane damage. It is a little bit trickier of the strat, and if you don't have the DPS for the strat that we're doing, it's kind of where you need to go. But we're going to do the soak. Were there any other questions? I'll tell you the tricky part, the first couple pulls is probably for the healers to get used to how that damage goes. See her just fucking arcane missiling like she don't even know.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, so she literally just goes from person to person and pumps out some arcane missiles.
Should we have like grounding totems down?
No.
It doesn't help? Okay.
Yeah. No, there's,
Did she just melee?
I thought I saw her melee, which I was like, that's weird.
Mm-hmm.
Do you not take fall damage?
So this is doing the nerfed version. You don't take fall damage if you're the one who had the thing, but if you're not the one, then you will take fall damage. Like that. I died.
Oh, jeez.
Careful.
Can somebody who maybe... Oh, yeah, so these are the portals. Adds 12 ads altogether. Oh my goodness, I'm in battle rest.
Are we sure she doesn't have a threat table?
She is not supposed to have any... I don't know why she's running up to people, but she literally just stands there and casts. Who's like a lowisher level that maybe won't kill her and could put her to like
I can try.
the other phase?
I'll do it. I got the thing though. I'm gonna kill people.
I'm doing it. I'm beaming her.
Tickle beam.
Very,
I have a pet.
very slowly. Oh, this requires energy of some sort.
Is
we're
that the Wrath of the Astromancer is the same thing that's knocking people up in the air right now?
Right,
Yeah,
that's the nerfed version that we don't have. That's how it works in the nerfed version, but we have pre-nerf.
There's the Voidwalker.
So there she goes. Now she's a big, badass Voidwalker.
So what does
obviously-
pre-nerf look like?
So pre-nerf looks like the debuff that that passes back and forth.
Oh, that's just
players.
completely different then.
Yeah, it's a completely different. So what they changed it to when they nerfed it is that it knocks you up in the air and it does AoE damage and knocks up anyone else close to you. So in the nerfed version, if we were all stacked on star and then I got the debuff, I would just run the fuck out of the raid and then wait for it to knock me up and plop me back down, and then I would rejoin the raid. Because the debuff goes away at that point. And that's all it is.
I can see a lot of people's computers
version.
randomly DCing on the nerf version.
So in that third phase, when she becomes a Voidwalker, she does have an aggro table in that phase?
Correct. Yeah, she will be tanked in that phase.
Do all the other abilities continue?
No, in that phase, she's just doing the arcane bolt on the tank, and then doing the AoE fear. The Soak Bros will still have the debuff, so they'll just stand out there by themselves. That's literally the Soak Bro life is just make sure your computer doesn't disconnect you and stay in that spot.
The thing will still be bouncing around, you're saying?
Yeah.
There's a target assist macro for those arcane bolts that I'm gonna find and I'll link it on Discord for the healers so that you can be healing proactively instead of reacting to someone's health going down.
Yeah, that's what I was saying before. Yeah, that you can use a target assist. You can set it as your focus, and you can use an assist focus target to heal if your add-on, if your UI doesn't show you. Any other questions on Solarian? Because we got us a 5 phaser right here, boys. So the KT fight is a 5-phase encounter. The first phase is the single advisor phase. So we will be fighting each one of his Brodios one by one. I didn't give assist. So let me just mark them up here. Okay. So each of them has unique abilities, and we want to kill them in kind of set locations to make the next phase a little easier. You guys have probably seen a ton of different versions of this. If you did the fight back in the day, if you've watched old videos or even new videos, there are a ton of different positionings and ways to do this fight. I'm going with one that I think will help just make things not as spread out and not as time consuming in phase 3. So for phase 2 or phase 1 rather, sorry, we will be dealing with Thaladred. Thaladred spawns first. He has no threat table. He just does a random fixate, so he will constantly switch fixates on people in the raid. So melee, right after he fixates someone, you can, if you would like, run in and like get a couple hits on him, but then get the fuck out because he could switch to you next. He will just chase that player. If you get within 30 yards of him, he will punt you, deal a high amount of damage, and punt you away. So it's super important that you are running. We want to take him like just kind of somewhere near the back of the room. Anywhere around here is fine. You can see on the raid diagram, there's just a big old space. Anywhere there is good to kill him. So range DPS cast on him, melee, you can try and DPS a little bit, but don't get yourselves killed. Or you can just stand out and chill for that first guy. So that'll be Thaladred. Secondly, we are doing Lord Sanguinar. So Sanguinar, we are going to pull over to where the X marker is. Circling back to Thaladred real quick. Please do not feign death or fade or do another or vanish or do any kind of threat drop when he targets you. It just makes him switch targets more often and makes him catch other people by surprise. There is no reason to do that. Just do the mechanic and kite him. So then Lord Sanguinar, so he does fears. His fear can be LOS'd, and it is like a melee close range fear, so you don't need to worry about it as a ranged DPS or healer if you're at your max. But if you're kind of nearby, he will do it. Having tremor totems down for that is going to be super helpful. We want him to die kind of where that X marker is, right in that area. Once he dies, then Capernian becomes active. She is the moon. So as Sanguinar is starting to get low on health, we need the Warlock tank and the Warlock tank healer to make sure that they are in position, which is going to be kind of over here where I am now. We ideally just want Copernican to stay right where she is on the stage, but the Warlock tank is going to get aggro. So we'll have an MD, but we'll also be spamming Searing Pain like the Warlock do. Super important to please not pull Threat. Also super important, melee, you do not attack Copernican. You just chill while we're doing the Copernican part. Anyone who comes within 30 yards of her is susceptible to her Conflagrate ability. So it's a disorient and fire damage. So you won't actually get to do anything but be disoriented if you come near her. And if there are multiple people near her, you will all share the Conflag and Disorient. Also, if you do happen to get up in close melee range of her, she does a knockback like Veclor in AQ40, where she does like almost a big arcane explosion that like knocks you back and deals a butt ton of damage to you. So Warlock tank should be the closest person, and that Warlock tank should be 30 yards plus away, and then the healer healing them. No special gear is required to tank her. It can just be done in normal Warlock gear. Once Copernican dies, Telonicus will become active. So Telonicus, he does an ability called Bomb, so he'll target like the tank generally and throw a bomb at them. It deals fire damage around them. So basically, as a tank, if this is Telonicus, I'm just going to run around him in a circle as I tank him, just kind of run around, tank him, melee, kind of same thing, be max melee range, try and spread out a little bit and just be DPSing him. He also will debuff a random player in the raid, which includes the tank as a possibility, with a debuff called Remote Toy. It lasts for a stupidly long time, and randomly, it gives you a 4-second stun. It's a horrible ability, and I still think about it from the original content. We are going to be killing Telonicus, trying to pull him off the stage. He is a little difficult to move. You have to kind of like be in melee range of him, and then right after he casts like an ability, kind of start moving him slowly. He's like really finicky. But we want to try to get him right over near Sanguinar's body for his death in phase 1. So phase 1, once again, pretty straightforward. We fight each of these guys one by one. The next one doesn't become active until the first one dies. And then when all 4 are dead, the second phase is going to begin. Does anybody have questions on phase 1 before I go on? Because this is a 5-phase fight. I'm just going to go phase by phase. Okie dokie, artichokes. So once Telonicus dies, we are going into the weapon phase up on Kilthas's platform there. He is going to spawn a bunch of weapons. The most notable kind of exception weapons that we're going to talk about is there's a bow that spawns like right about where the green marker is. And then there is an axe called Devastation, which actually spawns kind of in the middle. So we have one tank assigned to tanking Devastation. Devastation is actually going to be pulled from where it spawns at orange to like about where yellow is, so that it is outside of the stack of other weapons, but still within AoE range. But Devastation does some pretty nasty melee range AoE with its whirlwind. And so we don't want it fucking up the other tanks or the melee DPS by being directly in the stack. So it's going to be just kind of like outside the stack, but still within range to get hit by the caster AoE. So melee, being that devastation is going to be over as we're looking at the boss now on that like left side, you want to be kind of over on the right side DPSing, so that you're not risking like your booty getting clapped by devastation. The bow that spawns at green can only be range tanked. So that's where the hunters come in. The hunters are going to shoot that guy, get aggro on it, and kind of kite it back and keep it facing away from the raid because it does a multi-shot, like a frontal cone multi-shot ability, and we don't want that to be hitting the entire raid. The bow also does like a blink, so it'll like kind of blink closer to you at times. But the hunters are just going to kind of kite it around, single target, range DPS. Like Shadow Priest can help kill that guy as well, while the AoEers are bursting down the rest of the weapons. As each weapon dies, it becomes lootable for 60 seconds after its death, and gives you the legendary weapons that this fight is known for. I won't go through all of their abilities because that's a lot, but it is super important that we are picking up the key ones that will help us with the rest of the fight. Excuse me, I don't know, my throat's dry and I'm coughing all the time. So casters are all going to want to pick up the Staff of Disintegration. It has an unused AoE ability that grants immunity to stuns like the remote toy debuff. So it is important to keep that debuff up on the entire raid at all times for the rest of the fight. Healers are going to pick up Cosmic Infuser. It just gives additional buffs when healing, and also just does a butt ton of healing. Hunters are going to pick up that bow when it dies. That gives you guys some extra damage. The main tank, so commit, like you're going to pick up the phase shift bulwark or shield. The shield will probably be the last thing to die because, as you might imagine, it does take reduced damage. It does also deal damage back when it's being attacked because it has like a shield spike on it. So when it is a living weapon, it will probably be the last one to die, but it's also kind of like the least important to die quickly. And then rogues especially, but really all melee or anyone who can wield a dagger and has dagger skill. So if you don't have dagger skill, please get it, is going to pick up the Infinity Blade. The Infinity Blade can dispel mind controls, which are part of a later phase of the fight. It is super important that we pick up these weapons quickly. They can kind of stack up. So I know it's like a meme with Bulfy, like he never has bag space. And some of y'all too. I've tried to loot things too in Karazhan runs, and you got no bag space. You got to have bag space. You have to be able to loot the weapons that you need on this fight. So please leave your stacks of ore and your other crapola in your bank, or mail it to an alt or something. Make sure that you have room on this fight to pick up the weapons that we need to complete the encounter. And yeah, Faz, I am aware. I haven't changed the Pichu one. I just copied over the made file to both.
Are these weapons actually equipable?
Yeah.
So when you loot them, yes, they are equipable. So they're actual weapons you wear and use on your character.
Do we have to go like free for all loot?
No, we shouldn't have to. They should be lootable by the entire raid.
Okay.
So they can be looted multiple times. Like every single person in the raid can loot these items.
Oh, okay.
So technically, if I wanted, I could go and loot every single weapon. I can't do anything with a bow, but I could have it in my inventory for the duration of the fight, I guess.
Yeah, so there's only one bow, but all the hunters can get one.
Correct. Yeah, just to be clear, everybody can loot every single weapon. They can be looted up to 25 times each. Because that's how many people are in the raid. So yeah, it's not, we want everybody to have the weapons that are important. And in the raid doc, I outline like, these are the big ones that are important. Like, yes, 2-hand users might want to loot Devastation. It doesn't really do anything for the rest of the raid, so if you don't loot it, it's not the end of the world. But we definitely want to have healers looting the mace, the main tank having the bulwark, the rogues and other melee having that infinity blade, the casters all having the staff. Like, those are the big important things to make sure everybody gets. The rest are like personal DPS increases, which sure, they're great, but they're not fight breaking like some of the others that have specific use abilities.
Cool. What happens if staff users is their buff?
So if a buff is lost, the staff user can just like use the staff again and reapply the buff.
I see.
So if you end up out of range or what have you, like, it can be reapplied.
Is it it's party based, not raid based, I'm assuming?
Correct.
Do you know the range?
I do not have the exact range, but I want to say it's probably like 40 yards.
Oh, perfect.
30.
Is it only 30?
That's dope.
I'm looking at it now.
How long are they lootable? Like 30 seconds?
60 seconds after for 60 seconds after they die. But that's as each one dies. So if one dies super early, its timer starts earlier. But after 60 seconds, they'll despawn and they're no longer lootable.
Can the tanks wear the shield and the dagger and or axe? Or is it just
so the main tank is only going to want to wear the shield and then have his regular threat weapon. But
the dagger is probably the best threat weapon.
True. But the tank won't be using it to dispel MCs. He'll be tanking.
I just couldn't remember if you could wear both or just
one. There's like a one-handed sword as well. So like if you wanted to wear a one-handed sword and a dagger, and the dagger in the other hand, you can do that.
Gotcha.
So we have 2 minutes once the weapons spawn in order to kill them before phase 3 begins. So it's super important that we are focusing down the weapons, that we've got that AoE popping, that we are getting them down quickly. Because if we transition into phase 3 with a bunch of weapons up, it's going to suck. Did anybody have any other questions about phase 2?
You've got the bear tanking the devastation off to the side, and what are the other tanks assigned to? Is it just kind of a free-for-all?
Yeah, just
AoE
kind of
tanking?
Yeah, just pick it up, hold it, and thread everything.
The hunters, are they just going to solo their bow?
So they are going to be working on the bow, like any single target DPS. So definitely, like if I'm an Affliction Lock or Shadow Priest, I can be putting dots up on them, and then the Shadow Priest can also be DPSing it. And the raid will turn to it eventually, but first we want to get the AoE stuff down. The stuff that like we definitely need to have dead and have looted for phase 2. But that being said, as the hunters are kiting it around and they are going to be taking damage from that bow, we need to make sure that they're getting heals. So healers need to be aware and not just focusing up front. So if you're a raid healer, you are going to also have to look out for the hunters.
Is there any weapon that you'd rather see killed first?
I mean, the most important one to have right away is the staff. That's really like the number one. The Infinity Blade is also a good one to have quickly, but the staff is immediately like affects mechanics that happen in phase 3, where the rest they don't kick into mechanics that happen until phase 4. So like the shield should pretty much always be like the last thing to die. It's the one we're least worried about. It does the least amount of damage to the tank tanking it. And again, it isn't really utilized until phase 4. So even if you went into phase 3 with the shield still kind of up, it's not a big deal.
Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I know in our guild I used to grab the shield and bring it to the tank. Did we want to have somebody do that so that he doesn't have to run back over there while he's trying to pick up his ad and stuff?
For what are you talking about? Sorry.
Like when because the shield's the last to die, but the tank has to be ready to pick up the guys when they come back to life. Do we want to have somebody grab the shield and bring it over to him?
Well, I'm a little confused because he'll have it on him already. He'll have threat.
No, like it won't have died yet, so he has to be in position to pick up his ad, so he doesn't stand around by the shield waiting for it to die.
Right.
I would just bring it with me to the next tank.
Yeah, he would just
target.
Because he's going to be tanking right over here, like right off the platform, so he's not going that far.
Yeah, I don't know. We just had them standing there already, just to pick it up right away, so he didn't have to worry about grabbing it. But it's whatever.
So not all of the tanks have a tank assignment in phase 3. So basically the ones who don't have an assignment and don't have somewhere to be can be holding and finishing off whatever last weapons might still be up, like when we're initially progressing. But it's not like back in the day where like you probably tanked. I mean, like one of the more common strats was like Thaladred over here, and then Sanguinar by this door, so you could LOS the fear and stuff, where you're coming like so far across the fucking room. That's part of the reason for using this strategy, is that the tank positions are all very close to where we're all going to be in phase 2.
I got a question about the bow.
Yeah.
They only need to kite it back if it blinks towards them, right? Like they don't need to constantly be kiting it.
Yeah, they need to bring it out a little bit from where the raid is initially, just so that it's not spraying the raid. But then, yeah, otherwise you guys are just standing there DPSing it, and then if it blinks up to you, you're kiting back and just making sure you keep it facing the raid. Like never come and run over here so that it's then shooting at you towards the entire raid behind you.
Because I only watched a couple kill videos from the PTR, but the bow died on the platform with everything else every time.
If you can just face it away, it's not a big deal. I guess it depends on how much it blinks, honestly. Gotcha. But yeah, you're not kiting it around the room the way that you kite like Thaladred.
On the weapons, are Feral Druids going to pick up the staff as well? And does it like detect
everybody you can use a staff should pick up the staff, minus the healers.
Okay.
Yeah, if you can wield a staff, you should grab it. Because that debuff coming off is problematic. Any other questions about phase 2? So again, phase 2 lasts 2 minutes. Whether all the weapons are dead or not, phase 3 will begin. Phase 3 is like phase 1, except all the guys at once. So all 4 bosses become active. So there are assigned tanks for Skull and Square, who are going to pick them up and just tank them right over in their little area. You won't necessarily want to keep them stacked right on top of each other. They're just kind of nearby each other. Because again, not Thaladred, Telonicus is that one that you're kind of like running around in circles from his little bombas.
You said Skull and Square, but you meant X and Square?
X and Square, sorry. X and Square.
Skull's going to like target random people, yeah?
Yeah, Skull's going to be like back here somewhere in the back of the room where we killed him. So he'll pop up there, and then he'll just pick somebody for a fixate. So when phase 3 begins, tanks need to be in position. So paying attention to the timer for like the transition. The Warlock tank needs to make sure that they are breaking off of any AoE that they were doing and that they're getting over in their Capernian tanking position. And their healer needs to make sure that they're back here in the cubby behind them. Again, super important that we have that staff buff up because, again, Telonicus's ability, that remote toy that can cause that random stun, it negates that ability. But if, let's say, the Warlock with their healer is not keeping the staff buff up on their healer, and their healer gets remote toyed, the Warlock's going to die when that healer gets stunned. So super important to watch those buffs. I will have a weak aura that will like alert you if you lose that buff. Like I'll be sharing some weak auras for the this and other fights when we're actually in the raid.
It also negates the Complag on Capernian.
Yes. Yeah, the tanks need to be in position as we're getting close to the transition time from phase 2 to phase 3. So phase 3, all the guys come up. Range DPS are going to start on Skull, so coming here by the back of the room on Thaladred. Just burn him down, kite him as we need to. Once Thaladred dies, the ranged are going to join the melee on Sanguinar. So melee at the start of the fight will be DPSing Sanguinar, the X, because again, Thaladred just not good for you guys to be dealing with the X. So melee will be on X from the start. Ranged will join them. We will kill X, and then the melee will just move to Telonicus, who is right next to him, and the ranged will swap over to Capernian. Ranged will kill Capernian and then help the melee finish off Telonicus. So the melee only have 2 targets in this phase. They go from from X to square, whereas the ranged will go from skull to X to moon to square. This phase lasts 3 minutes. It is 3 minutes whether we get all the advisors down or not. So again, like one of the reasons for me going with this positioning is for the killing the advisors in phase 1 is that it makes the transition from 2 to 3 a little easier because you aren't running all over the room as tanks to get to your tank spot. It's all very, very close to the platform. And then it also means that melee's targets are right near each other, and ranged once Thaladred is dead, like can be pretty much up in a single area up front here, DPSing the additional targets. Any questions about phase 3? Okay, it's pretty straightforward. All the little mini bosses have their same abilities from phase 1. So once 3 minutes has passed, phase 4 will begin. Phase 4 is when we actually get to start fighting KT. It's a whole new world. We'll have one player marked as just like a stack point for the ranged and heals. Like a loose stack doesn't need to be like super tight, but we all want to be in the same little area together. Kael'thas is going to cast Flame Strike randomly in an area. Just don't stand in it, move away from it. As tank, it can be like on the melee, so you'll just adjust the boss on that upper platform as you need to get out of the Flame Strike. Just making sure you're also leaving room for melee to be out of the Flame Strike. During that phase, he is going to summon a Phoenix periodically. Off tank is going to pick up the Phoenix and get it away from the raid. It does a Hellfire effect, like a Warlock, and it basically kills itself. If you're a dot class, you could throw a couple dots on it, but there's not really reason to like hard pump any DPS into it. It's literally just going to kill itself. So the off tank is just going to tank it, off by itself. When it is getting close to dying or about to die, you want to run away because it does do a lot of damage when it dies. After that phoenix dies, though, it turns into an egg. And it will stay an egg for 15 seconds before it hatches and spawns a new phoenix. If we let that happen, along with the phoenixes that Kilthos is spawning throughout the fight, we'll just get overwhelmed. So it's super important that it's called out when the phoenix is dying, and then all DPS, all range DPS, I should say. I don't know that the melee need to necessarily run over, but turn to the egg and kill it. You have 15 seconds to kill it when it spawns. So it's very, very quick. It's got to die so we do not get overwhelmed with phoenix ads. The boss, so Kilthos is going to be casting fireballs at the tank. Those need to be interrupted. And then he periodically is going to do a combination of abilities. He's going to cast a shock barrier, which is like a damage absorption shield on himself. So we have to DPS through that shield. That shield also makes him uninterruptible. After he casts the shield, he is going to start cooking up some fucking nasty pyroblasts for the main tank. If uninterrupted, he will cast 3 consecutive pyroblasts. One pyroblast can kill the tank. So it is super important. For the first one commit, the shield is still going to be up on him, the shock barrier. You are going to use your shield buff to eat that first pyroblast because the shield buff protects you from 100,000 damage. So you're going to use it right before that pyroblast goes off. That first pyroblast goes off while we're still burning through the barrier. And then once we burn through the barrier, that second pyroblast has to be interrupted. If the second pyroblast is interrupted, he will not cast a third. He will only cast all 3 if he goes uninterrupted. So every time that happens, shock barrier goes up. Main tank is going to eat the first pyroblast while we're burning through the barrier. And then we have to have that barrier burned through before the second pyroblast goes off, and it has to be kicked. That's the most important thing on the fight. So let's say that is going on, that as a phoenix is dying and an egg is spawning, Kilthos puts up the barrier. At that point, we do not switch to the egg. We burn the barrier on Kilthos because we have to interrupt that pyroblast. We can deal with a second phoenix for a little bit and put some DPS on it to get caught back up, but we can't deal with commit dying. During this phase, also, Kilthos is going to MC some random players. It is super important that we get CCs out, whether they're death coils, fears, sheeps, what have you, as quickly as possible. We are going to use the melee with their daggers, or anyone who can throw on a dagger and stab a person to break those MCs, but that doesn't mean that we don't CC those people. If we let them go unCC'd, the dagger doesn't always break the first time the person gets stabbed. It's a little unreliable. Rogues having it and using Shiv is one of the best ways. One of the problems we used to encounter back in the day is like people would throw on the dagger and then use their fucking specials and beat the shit out of the MC'd person and kill them before they ever actually broke the MC. So it's super important that we do not do that. Don't repeat the mistakes of the past. But Shiv is a really good one for rogues to be able to break those MCs.
When you say anyone that can use a dagger, shaman?
You can use a dagger. You're correct. If you have no dagger skill, it's probably not going to be super effective.
So we should go back and forth between staff and dagger depending on where we're at.
I disagree with that.
No, you should be letting the melee handle them. And that's part of why we're still doing the CCs. If you
That's what I was asking. I was just confused.
yeah, if you're a staff wielder, I would highly recommend keeping the staff on and letting the melee handle those. Again, we have the MCs or the CC as backup, but CC is going to be important.
Does the staff help at all at this point?
Yes, he does a disorient that could get you caught in a flame strike easily.
Yeah. So he does periodically does a disorient ability, and that is negated by having the staff buff. So everyone in the raid should have a staff buff.
Did you say it was it limited to party?
Yes.
Yes.
If you get disoriented as the tank, he will drop threat on you.
Does applying the buff dispel the disorient? If it's already on for some reason?
I have no idea about that.
I'm not positive. I don't remember from back in the day. But the whole thing is to always have the staff buff active, and to again having the weak aura that will alert you, because then you can call out for the staff wielder in your group.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I had a macro back in the day, and I literally spammed that thing like every 3 or 5 seconds to keep that staff buff up.
Do I need to equip it to use it?
Yes.
Well, that's not going to happen.
Well, somebody else in your party.
No, you'll have someone else in your group who's doing the staff buff. It will not be you.
Yeah.
It looks like the staff that on use doesn't have a GCD attached to it, so you can just macro it to your abilities.
Correct.
Oh, good.
Yeah, you can use it. You can use it constantly. Whatchamacallit. There are equip and use macros. I think there's one up on on the Wowhead guide. Whatchamacallit. But it's a pretty
if you need one, so
pretty easy macros to write to equip and use the appropriate weapon. But yes, the comps will be set to make sure that we have a staff buff in every group, because that is hella important.
Are healers that can use staffs going to be needing to use it, or probably just healing?
It should not be a healer that that is going to be willing. Yeah, we should be using the cosmic infuser.
It looks like the infuser gives a buff. Is that important?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. So the Phoenix ads are doing fire damage. Kael'thas is also doing fire and shadow damage throughout the fight. So that's us healing with that on is helping buff the raid. There's enough casters to wield the staves that the healers should all be just using our normal weapon. Or our infuser, rather. Any questions about phase 3 or phase 4? Sorry, phase 4. Okie dokie. So phase 4 lasts up until 50%. Once Kael'thas hits 50%, he likes to freeze us and then fly up in the air and then make a little speechy speech. And then when he comes back down, he is going to pick up some new abilities and stop using abilities like the shock barrier and the pyroblast. What he's going to do in phase 5 is that he's still going to have there's still going to be the Phoenix stuff happening. He's going to pick up an ability called Gravity Lapse. So it's going to start a period of time that lasts about 30 seconds where you can kind of fly through the air in this room. At that point, we need to spread out from each other, both using height and direction to be spread, as he will be casting an ability called Nether Beam. Think of it like the I-beam on Cthulhu that hits each, that if it chains to another person, it does 50% more damage to that person, and then 50% more damage to the next person chains to, and so on. So it very quickly starts killing people. So it's important that we stay spread out in the air. It is also important that you do not fly up too high, because when the gravity lapse ability ends, you will fall to the ground and take fall damage as you would normally expect to. So if you're flying up super high, you probably gonna die. He can still be DPS'd during that time while that's going on, so you still want to be in a spot to where you're DPSing, where we're still healing, because there is lots of damage going out during that whole period as well. There are also going to be like little like stormy looking cloud things in the air, nether vapors. So they do apply a debuff that like reduces your stamina. So you want to stay out of those as you're flying around in the air. And when you're flying around, you don't have to keep moving. Like if you find an area where you're good and you're away from other people, just stay there and do your pew pew or your heals or your whatever. Just as a note for the ad tank, the phoenixes will like start evading when we're flying in the air and that phase is going on. That's fine. Also, if you do fly down or swim down to the ground during that phase, you will take some damage and get knocked back up. So you can be kind of close-ish to the ground, but you don't want to try to get on the ground during the gravity lapse.
Is he still being tanked while we're flying around?
You're still, you're still tanking him. Like, we're not flying the whole phase. Like, you still.
Yeah, for the 30 seconds, is he just like randomly nether beaming people?
Yes.
Yeah, he's just casting the nether beams.
Just get the fuck out of Dodge and get away from the clouds.
Yeah, avoid clouds and stay spread.
And then when that ends, it's tank and spank until he does it again?
Yeah.
With the phoenixes still, but yeah.
Yeah, there's still the phoenix shenanigans happening.
Are we worried about eggs at that point, or just trying to kill boss?
So that'll be kind of like our burn phase, although I didn't say this before, but we are going to be looking to use Bloodlust in phase 3 before we get to phase 4 where the MCs happen. Just in the event that somebody was to get MC'd and blows their Bloodlust there, we would not get it at all. And they could also use it to really fuck us up. So, but yeah, phase 5 like should be the easiest phase and should mean a kill. That being said, back in the day, definitely did wipe in phase 5, and that was super demoralizing. But yeah, if we get to phase 5, like it should be a kill. It's the most chill of the phases.
Phase 3 into 4 is just on a timer. Like, do we expect to still have one of these 4 advisors still alive when KT goes active?
Ideally, no. You would want them all dead by that point. And if we're using the Bloodlust there, that should help us clean up any weapons that might be left from phase 2 and get the dudes dead in phase 3.
Time to pull.
Did anybody have any questions? All right, Commit. Are you gonna go tank? Are you gonna tank the guys?
Energy, power.
Who gets the mount?
Me.
Cole.
Cole called dibs. You guys heard it.
Can't ride that.
You can too, right, Takara?
No, it creates a portal that you have to click.
Let us see how your nerves hold up against the Darkener, Thaladred.
Prepare yourselves!
Run.
Run fast.
Run.
Fizzle. Oh, he's dead.
Or not.
That's not where he's supposed to die.
Oh my god.
Wipe
I
it
didn't
up.
do
Wipe
it.
it up.
I taunted him and he died.
Lord Sanguinar.
Why am I not surprised?
There you go, commit. Oh God, we're feared.
Oh, fuck. I didn't get a fear award.
Capernian will see to it that your stay here is a short one.
It was
Warlock
like a
tank.
bellowing roar.
Cronenberg, go.
Well done. You have proven worthy to
Perfect
test your
tanking
skills
position there.
against
Well
the
done.
master and
Beautiful.
leader, Telemachus.
Moronicus.
I fucking hated being remote toyed on this fight. I hated it so much.
Yeah, this is the stupidest of the 4 fucking ads.
Fuck Telemachus.
I have many weapons in my
Oh, I got the remote toy, yay.
Oh. So there's
Get
all
the bow fizzle. Oh my
Get it.
god.
Because what are you doing?
You're wiping the raid.
I'm fucking
Oh my
stunned.
God.
Fuck.
Loot the things.
Oh,
Did these
AoE
things do
looting.
a lot of damage? Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, AoE looting just gives you everything.
Do those weapons do a lot of damage too?
Yeah.
They do. Like some of the weapons do more damage than others, but yeah, they'll do a good amount of hurty.
I give you the mental protection field.
I can only use one of these weapons as a monk. Can't use.
Oh, I wanted to do it, but I got mine from Joanna.
So
Oh,
weapons
you
was
should-
2 minutes. So now we're just standing here, like, killing weapons, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're killing weapons.
Or AoE
We're
and
kill-
AoE.
Yeah.
We're killing it.
Hunters get the bow, pull the axe out, and AoE the rest of them.
Yeah, and if the axe is tanked right, it should like be just in range of AoE, but not in range to like whirlwind. The tanks are melee.
He's looking at me.
He said, "I'm gonna get you, boy."
Perhaps I underestimated you. It would be unfair to make you fight all 4 advisors. at
It would
once.
be unfair.
Fair treatment was never shown to my people. I'm just returning. the
Oh
favor.
God, they're all back.
Now these two should be like separated a little bit, right? So I'm not dealing with the other dude's bombs.
Yeah, see, like it could be like a little more here.
Oh, a lot of stuff happened right when he came out.
So that
Yeah.
red shit on the ground, that's a buff, right?
No. That's
A
the
pretty
bite.
long time to dodge that. It looks like, right? Seems like reasonable.
Yeah, because there was like a little swirly before it actually cast.
Yeah, like you can see where it's gonna land. You should be able to move out.
Let's see if we can kill somebody with another game.
There was a bug for a while where sometimes he would go into this phase and then he would just never transition into phase 5.
Do we want to let people see the floaty in the air thing?
Stack up.
Oh yeah, yeah. Don't
Don't
kill
kill
him,
him.
guys. Let people see the floaty.
Does he start with floaty or?
No.
No, it'll
He
take
starts
him a
with
hot
fireball.
second.
Oh, my pet, of course. Why
So,
not?
right? I've got pet aggro.
Because every time a boss wants to, like, Iran, just cast on my pet.
Oh, Faz is dead.
That's gotta
Oh
be
my
fast,
God!
yeah.
There it is.
Oh, it looked like a teleport too.
Yeah, he teleports. I didn't say that. He teleports everyone to him, and then you see these little black cloudy guys. Those are bad. Stay away.
Avoid him.
I like that the pets are still running around on the ground.
I think he's still casting shock.
And yeah,
Barrier, but he
you
doesn't
see if
cast
you go
fire
down
rings.
to the ground that it just plops you back up into the air.
Plop.
So he still does the shock barrier, just doesn't pyroblast.
Correct.
Now
Yeah,
the
we still have to
fireballs
burn
still
through the shield.
undroppable. He does even rip these or no?
Yes.
Give him a mount.
Oh, that's 10 gold. That's disappointing.
I only got 5 gold.
I didn't get any
No
items the
mount.
entire time. What a rip.
I got
Faz got
tier
everything.
children.
What was that?
Yeah.
That's
Faz
bonus
cheating.
for standing in the AoE.
Faz got the sphere. So yeah, so this is a longer fight.
Is Bear lagging? What's going on?
What?
I do see Bear Joanna just screen dragging all over the place.
Oh my god, dude.
It's fine.
It's some super
Everything's
monk
fine.
shit.
Jeez.
Just
Yeah,
getting
you're-
ready for PvP later.
Apparently there's some weird like internet outages, which is why
Teleports behind you.
the login was broken.
Looking like those coil fan bots out there.
Goodbye, friends.
Does it?
I must leave now.
Yeah.
No mage. Oh my god, I don't even know where my hearth goes. Honest.
There you go.
Which
I got
one?
I do be having 3 different
Me
Hearthstones.
too. Oh, I can go be antisocial in my garrison.
I live to serve.
Oh, that's where I'm gonna go in my garrison.
To the heart of the forest.